John, you didn't tell me we were doing hats.
It was next to me.
Oh, I've already got this mask.
What is that?
It's
That sellotape dispenser. Yes.
Sellotape dispenser.
Wear that.
Yes,
Wear
do
that.
them. Yes.
What, this?
Yeah, wear
I
that.
need
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, wear that.
Hang on, let me turn it on.
Oh,
on.
does it change your voice?
It does, yeah. Basically. But it's not very good.
Well, let us be the judge of that. Need to remove. Yeah.
I can't hear anyone. Can anybody hear me?
Brilliant.
That's ridiculous.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the nearly award-winning Sprint Zero podcast. My name is Darth Vader, and I'm here with my co-partner, Rat in Crime, Boba Fett. Say hello, Boba. Our guest today is none other than Ulrikke Akerbæk. I've forgotten how to say it.
Sorry, Mike. You did not get cut. You didn't make the cut.
I knew
You're not
it.
on the
I
list.
knew it.
I'm
I
sorry.
knew it.
Yeah, I'm not going to add you to the list. It's not happening.
Ulrikke Akerbæk.
Yes, John. There
Our
you go.
guest today
Mike.
is none
That's how
other
you
than
do it.
Ulrikke Akerbæk, a Microsoft Business Applications MVP with a passion for creating beautiful and functional digital experiences. Ulrikke has a bachelor's degree in multimedia from Karlstad University and a background rooted in web development, graphical design, and user experience. She's a Power Pages expert, a self-described less code developer who loves to code, and a go-to person when it comes to low-code solutions that don't skip on functionality. Ulrikke's philosophy that I work with people, not computers. She believes that customer relationships are the foundation of her work, and she approaches every project with a structured, organised mindset that blends creativity and collaboration. Welcome to the podcast, Ulrikke. I've said your name 3 different ways.
Enrique. Welcome to the podcast, Enrique Iglesias. Jesus.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Ulrikke.
Thank
How are
you, Mike and John. Thank you. I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for a fantastic intro. I've never.
It was very butchered.
Who is that? I mean, it sounds like someone really awesome. So thank you. Really
Also,
appreciate it.
Ulrikke, I know you were a little bit late.
Yeah.
Going to spit his drink out.
Yes, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
just
can't
completely
believe
speak
you were
my
late.
mind. Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
let me retract that. I was late because I did my usual thing where at the moment I'm working on 2 laptops. Wasn't looking at one and thought now it's lunchtime, so I'll go and have some lunch, and then realised when Mike rang me and said,
Yeah.
"How are you?"
So that means we're going to get hungry John on the podcast.
No. I ate, so I went a little bit early.
Oh,
So
okay.
in my mind, I think I knew that there was a podcast recording. Anyway, let's not get into that. We'll be here for hours.
My only regret is I didn't record the phone call.
So, Ulrikke, welcome to the podcast. Really appreciate you taking the time in your busy schedule to speak to us. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are in the Power Platform space?
Thank you, John. And it's not really, because I'm so young, you see, so it's not really that long of a story to tell.
25?
I just, around-ish, just...
Same here, yeah.
Around there somewhere. Yeah.
But if you're 25,
obviously.
John, I'm 19.
All right, so I'll beat you both with my real age then. Actually, I like I said in your intro, I did my bachelor's in Karlstad in Sweden, multimedia. I was also a freelance web developer, and I loved HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all that jazz. And I made websites in PHP, which I later on in life, from real developers, learned is not really a development language. Beats me, why not? But That's where I come from. I started working off of uni at a consultant company. They taught me SharePoint, and I did SharePoint branding for, I don't know, way too many years, 5-10 years maybe. And then I went on maternity leave, and when I came back, they shipped all of SharePoint into the cloud, and every customer called me up and said, you know that master page that you turned upside down 5 years ago, can you please revert all of that, because now it's killing our SharePoint site. Our internet doesn't work because of the things you did. And after 3 of those calls, I thought, no, I'm out of here. I'm not going to do any more of this. And so I looked for a web development kind of product in the Microsoft stack, and I found Power Pages, which they just bought that same, I think it was kind of 2 or 3 months in that they bought ADX Studio. It was a website, web development product. And so that fit my skill set. And so I just dove in. Even younger back then and fearless, just grabbed it with both hands, sold it to a customer, and the rest is history, basically. See?
Nice.
So a friend of the show, Franco, mentions you quite a lot, and the fact that you're an epic at Power Pages. What's the draw for you for that part of the platform?
Yeah, so apart from it kind of appealing to my skill set already and being front end and also being an external thing, right? An external facing thing, coming from SharePoint, which is all internally intranets and stuff like that, it was really appealing to work with something that could hit actual customers. Working with accessibility, for instance, always something close to my heart, and was really rewarding to work with a kind of a real product instead of something just internally. So that's one thing. But also that it enabled me to just go from hello world outwards. I do not know the first thing about security really, or authentication setup or something like that. So it enabled me to do just the thing that I'm good at and not having to deal with all the other things. I don't think if my life depended on it that I could get a React website up and running, get to hello world. For me, it just seems impossible at this stage. So yeah, that's kind of what was appealing. And that's why I call myself a low coder that loves to code, because I love the code from the hello world being, you have everything set up and then you create the front end, you create the thing that the humans interact with. That code I love to make and love to do, but all the scaffolding and all the things underneath, that really should be the same and should be watertight for almost every website. I'm happy not to do that over and over and over every time. I think that's a problem that has been solved in a sense, and I'm glad that Microsoft has a product kind of have that embedded, and you start with that and then you can build on top of it what you want.
Nice. So do you think Microsoft market the product well enough?
Very good question. No, not at all. I think the marketing, I'm going to be shocked for saying this out loud, but I think the marketing's way off. Power Pages is the most pro-codey tool in the toolbox. You cannot get anywhere with Power Pages without knowing web development. And you need to know what's in the box to be able to use it well. And I see developers coming in all the time and showing off this really great React app, companion app that they injected into Power Pages, which is a form. And they look at it and they tell me, yeah, look at what I did. Isn't it neat? And I go, click, 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 click. Yeah, I just made exactly what you made, because you don't know what's in the box. If you'd known, then you would also be, hours and hours off. So it's really important to me to tell the truth about the product. And I don't know, I'm in two minds about talking about this, but just this morning or yesterday evening, there was a news article about how there's been data leakage again with Power Pages. And it is because someone did not know how to work with the product. It does not have anything to do with Power Pages, really. Because if you do it right and you know what you're doing, then you configure the security model to do what you needed to do, and you would not have to expose the data.
Do you think then the low-code tagline for Power Pages is inaccurate?
It goes for all the products, really. The only difference between Power Pages and the other product is that it's external facing. So you end up, if you do it wrong, it
Yeah,
has
it's bad.
greater consequences. If you do something wrong and you expose data in a Power App, it's inherently internal and it won't make the headlines. Just because Power Pages is external, you get those headlines. You have data exposed to outsiders. So yeah, it should. And I had just had a talk with a colleague about this. It is, yeah, let people create websites and let people create apps and flows, but also talk about the Fusion team that you need around it. Just because you can make an app doesn't mean that you will make it accessible, that you follow your company's brand guidelines, that you make it a good user experience. You don't know enough about security. You don't know anything about access management or data modeling or architecture, information architecture. These are the things that we as experts and professionals, we know these things. And you need the citizen dev. That story is perfect, but you need to zoom out and see the whole team that is around that citizen dev for that story to work, right? I think that's missing. They're missing the village. They just focus on the hero in the middle.
But I think the village, that's a good analogy. I think the village is also quite small. Like, I think if you, especially in this part of the Power Platform, like if you look at people who are, leaders in the Canvas app space, which I think is probably the most popular product. There's a lot of people there. There's a lot of people that kind of specialize in Power Automate. But I think Power Pages, if I really think about who I know in the community that I would say are probably the leaders there, it's yourself, Nick Dolman, Victor Dantas, and Franco Musso. That's 4. Whereas with Canvas apps, I can probably go maybe like 10, 15, maybe. So, are there, maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe obviously there probably are more people, but how could you maybe get those people to kind of be more vocal about this niche? Not a niche. It's hard calling it a niche. It's not a niche project. It's niche by its externalization of the people that are at the top of their game on it, because there's only a few people. So how do we get more people into Power Pages? How do we get more people interested? Or am I barking up the wrong tree? And there is quite a big...
I think it's chicken and egg, really, isn't it? Because part of the problem is that Power Pages isn't inherently in every project like a Canvas app would be or a model-driven app would be. So the demand isn't as strong for Power Pages in most projects as it is for like a model-driven app. So I guess naturally people focus their attention more on those products. And also there's another element to that as well. Canvas apps are just there and you can just go and create one and just go and share it. And there's nothing really more you need to do. But Power Pages are different. You have to go and get a trial and stand up the instance, and then you've got to connect it to Dataverse. And I think there's like more steps. There's more of like not a barrier to entry, but there's definitely more steps to getting started that we don't necessarily have as many people in the community who have sort of experienced it. But if they have, it's because they've then embarked on a project where they're now implementing it, right? Is that a fair analogy, or am I also barking up the wrong tree?
No, I think you're both right. And then just, to talk about the community part first, of course, me being in the space, I could easily name 25, 30 people that I know that I look for, and that when I Google stuff, their names pop up, and I see so many up and coming stars in the Power Pages community. So to me, that landscape is completely different because that's kind of my main area. I think that's very natural. And also, I think seeing it more and more at conferences, that's one thing. So we see more and more workshops that are completely Power Pages oriented. We see Power Platform community events where you have Power Pages tracks alongside Power Apps tracks and other things. But I also see other parts of the platform kind of struggling a little bit. I think it's very good to see. I've seen lately at community conferences, you have more and more talks about model-driven apps and how powerful they are. Because it's been kind of neglected. Is Dynamics 365 a model-driven, the apps are model-driven apps, and then you look at it from the other side, and then what came first, and the chicken and the egg, and I think it's one of the forgotten things, and you forget how powerful model-driven apps actually are. So I love the fact that I can see now so many people kind of revigorating model-driven apps in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's where my love is really. Like I've always struggled with Canvas apps, but yeah, I love model driven apps. Like I really, 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 really love them. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I mean, there's something about the way that my mind works in a different way. It's from the inside out, and my mind works from top to bottom. It's a mental bend that I'm not used to, and every time I go into a Canvas app, I kind of have to learn it again. So I really find the same thing.
So, as a like a less code developer who loves to code, what's your like secret sauce to that?
So the first project that I was in was 4 years long, and we did not have the web API. It was a very immature product at that point because they just bought ADX Studio. So I had to scramble to find out what every setting did. I have been to all the small corners. I've looked under all the small pebbles in Power Pages to see if I could solve the requirement without coding, because that was always my go-to. I had to see if I can configure my way to the solution before I coded it, because I had 2 developers on my team. And back then we had to create web apps in Azure and inject those companion apps into Power Pages. That was the way we had to do it. And of course, that meant we had to have a huge build process. We had to have all the source code and all the hard code dev things that I don't understand. And every time was a huge investment. So it was much cheaper and simpler and easier for me to configure my way through it. So I've bent Power Pages as far as you can bend it. And then until I met Franco Musso, which actually bends it even more than I can. He has some nasty tricks, but it works. But yeah, so I think coming from that background, I always make sure to talk about what's in the box like I did in the beginning, because there are so many things you can do. And at this point, we have a designer studio for Power Pages, which surfaces probably 50% of what you can actually do with Power Pages. If you do not know how to navigate and understand how the model-driven app works, you are missing out, because that's where the gold lies. And I actually had a discussion last night with another ex-MVP from the community about the inline editor that we used to have and how powerful that was, and how we are missing the multilingual capabilities of Power Pages is so powerful, and is one of the biggest selling points for Power Pages overall. It's been for the last 8 years that this has been a product, and it's nowhere to be found. Even you can't see even a trace of it in the new designer. The content snippets of what you can do with that in terms of separating who can be an editor of your Power Pages site and who does the development, to have that kind of separation between user roles in a Power Pages site. We used to be able to do that, and we can't today. So if I have a Power Pages site and I have editors that will create pages, edit text, edit images, create blog articles, for instance, knowledge-based articles, stuff like that, I also have to give them access to the source code. They will be in the studio. They'll have the blue button that says edit in Visual Studio Code, and they'll open that and they'll see the source code underneath. And that is a huge problem. I worked with adoption, and I'm not sure about you guys, but when I work with adoption and you have people new to a product or a service or a technical solution, I find that they are more afraid of making a mistake and deleting something than they are inclined to explore and try and fail.
Just look at
so
GitHub.
Dead scared of making a mistake. Exactly.
GitHub, like you do a pull request on GitHub, you feel like you're about to break the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And people as young as us do stupid mistakes like that all the time, right?
Yeah.
I've turned off servers, prod servers before, and I've made all the mistakes, right? So it is. I find that there's some capabilities missing in the studio, which means that we can't really use it for all the use cases that it could be. It can't really reach its own potential because we are missing pieces of the puzzle. And those pieces used to exist, and they exist in a model-driven app to some extent. And I find that is really a hard sell. And if something does not include the 2 letters A and I today, you can't really get funding for it, can you? So everything on the backlog, they've sorted it by those 2 words, and the things that float on top, that's what get prioritized.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's kind of what, and I shouldn't be saying any of this. I should be all rah rah, drink the Kool-Aid. But to me, I work with the product every single day, and I'm sad to see how limited it is in what we can actually see through the new interface.
I think when you're passionate about that product as well, that service, like you want it to be better.
Yeah, it's a whole different level, right?
It's frustrating when new comes out and new is only half of what old could do. And it seems to be a trend with Microsoft, especially in Power Platform as a whole.
Power Automate.
Yeah, the new Power Automate is very contentious, and I've been working a lot with it lately. It has some serious bugs, especially around connections, and the fact that if you go and edit a flow with that new designer, it will wreck a lot of the connections that you have. And you have to go and undo that work and remember to undo it. And the fact that it just forces you in there as well, rather than just saying, you can't just say, I don't want to use this at the moment. Force it again 6 months down the line when you fix all the problems, but don't force it on me now. There's no way to do that, apart from there's some third-party plugins you can get that can do it. It's just, it's such a frustrating trend.
And I totally agree. And actually, to be fair, I love the new designer. The idea is brilliant. You can pin and have two panels at the same time. You can zoom out to see when you are diving. I'm the admin. I'm the connection. So that's when I had to do the Zen when you talk about connections and connection references, because I'm the owner of that in a project. And it is a trigger for me because it is. But so I get where your frustration is coming from, but I also see that it has so great potential if they get it right. And I would love to work in that interface, but it can't break everything else.
Exactly.
That's the point.
Oh, there's the stuff about the new Power Automate designer that's brilliant. Like, just being able to, like, publish and draft your flows. Just the way the UI works now, like, it's better than before. There's an element of change that people have to go through where they've worked with Power Automate for the past 5 years. It's always looked the same. But yeah, when it's got game-breaking bugs, it's not good for adoption.
No, I know. Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, we get a taste of our own medicine in a sense as well. And I kind of like that, because what we are doing with our solutions, the things that we build for our customers and their users, is usually some of the same, right? We don't contain ourselves to moving a button. Like, we create a whole new application for them to adopt. And now we kind of have the same thing as, yes, I know that you're telling me that this new tool is brilliant and awesome, but it was not like the other one. It does not do what the other thing did. And I had workarounds in the other one so that I could get my job done. And now you created this new interface for me that I don't know how to work, and the buttons are wrong. And so we have the same kind of friction that the people of users
have, right?
Yeah,
that users have when we're trying to help them adopt a new application.
Adoption is hard. It's hard work.
It is very
but
hard.
Also very rewarding when it works. And I think, and I almost said advent of agile development because it's been around for 30 years, but still I find that we have to convince customers and teach customers how to really do it right, and to not do the waterfall hybrid thing, but actually trust us and be in the driver's seat and do the real agile development. And when you fail fast and you try something and you try it on real users and you have this, you have the continuous deployment all the time doing improvements and testing them, that is really the only way forwards. And in a sense, Microsoft can't really do that, or they're trying to do that with us. And we give them really a hard time about it. And then to some extent, it's like, would I rather have just the model-driven app for Power Pages and not the new Design Studio? No, of course not, because it's enabling another layer of people. They're enabling the true low coder that doesn't dare to touch the Edit in Visual Studio Code button because they have no idea what they're doing. They know Word and PowerPoint. And so it's enabling them. Yes, I get that. And I love Microsoft for it. And the way that they're going and the way that they're investing in the product is amazing. It's just that I also know what it can do. And I'm seeing the gap, and I want them to kind of to tighten that gap a bit. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. On the subject of adoption and whatnot, you did a blog post that Power Pages wasn't available in Norway back in 2023. Has that changed?
Yeah, very curious question there, Mike. I checked with the product team, and I am allowed to tell you that Power Pages is now available in Norway. So you have an environment in the Norwegian region that you will now be able to provision a Power Pages site in that. And I've had access to it for a couple of weeks, and I've been trying it and testing it, and it works. So it's going to be released this weekend, and of course this episode won't be published in a couple of months maybe. So by the time this is published, it will be common knowledge that is now possible. So
I guess the question is more, why wasn't it?
I don't know. It's a very interesting question. I think it's one of those where Norway is so far off the map and so small and so insignificant that they didn't really bother. And I shouted the loudest, so then I got it into the data center. I think it's that simple, to be honest.
It just doesn't compute in my head.
No, it doesn't.
I know
how that works.
Because when I read that and put the questions together, I had to reread that a couple of times and actually, like, is that real?
Yeah, and it's still not available in all the data centers, and it is a slow process. And when I asked why hasn't it been a priority, they say, well, do you have any customers that request it? Do you have any big monthly active users waiting to happen for us to invest in it? And I went, well, maybe, and that's actually how it's been as well. That's been the driving force. Well, because they wouldn't have invested in it otherwise, I think. Because it is about cost. It is an ROI question. Because it is a big push for them to do it. And that goes for all the other data centers. And it goes for all the other capabilities as well. You have new kind of cognitive services for co-pilots. And which languages do you need that enabled for? Every language is going to be a push, is going to be an investment.
Yeah.
They have to know that there's an ROI on it. And if it's not, and it's not clear to them, then they're not going to invest in it. Like any other company.
That's really funny about the languages and ROI, but then in the same light, they talk about accessibility and making it available to as many people as possible. But what, is it only for the right price, or?
But, Norway's a really small country. So I'm not offended. I think it's pretty natural that it's not. But now, at the end of the day, we did have 2 customers who were begging us and telling us that we cannot use Power Pages if you don't enable this in Norwegian data centers. That's as simple as it is. And those customers were big enough for Microsoft to make the investment. And that's what I mean by shouting loud, is we hammered them for a month.
Yeah.
And got it on their radar, basically.
So this is just a case that you want to keep it within Norway. It just wasn't available to do that. But your workaround would be you just use another data center, right, within Europe. Like if your customer didn't have to have it in Norway, but they wanted Power Pages, you could go and use another country, and it's not.
And
so I presume in your case, it's in the European Union. It should be okay. Is that right, or?
We're not in the European Union. We are in a kind of a half-baked system that makes us follow all the rules, but we're not really members. So it is about the Norwegian government's rule for data security, meaning that some of our institutions are by law bound to not send data outside of Norway. So that's basically the reason why we have a Norwegian data center, because that doesn't really compute on any level that Norway has its own data center, but that is a reason why. So Microsoft is acknowledging that if we want to have a presence in Norway, that we have to have that. And that being said, though, the environments that you provision in the Norwegian data center doesn't have all the other applications either. So it's not just Power Pages missing. There's a whole whack of other things missing that we are fighting equally hard to get. So the majority of some F&O things, and there's some services and cognitive services that are not available. So I don't have the complete map of everything, but I do know that one of the big customers that I'm currently working on are actually maybe should be bound by those rules, and we've found ways to do the things that we do and be within the rules and in the European data center area. I think that's kind of the loophole that some Norwegian companies have to go through to get it working. So yeah, there's a bit of, because then it doesn't apply to all kinds of data, right? So you can then funnel some of the data through to the Norwegian data centers, and you have something else in the other ones. And then, of course, the rules are changing all the time as well, because it has to develop with the reality. And the reality is that people are not in Norway all the time. They are. The nature of the world is developing, and so they have to keep up.
But they
change the rules.
They made sure that the new Power Automate editor is in Norway, right?
Sorry.
The new Power Automate editor, that's in Norway, isn't it?
Yeah. That we have that. In Norway,
that's there.
And I saw, and I saw actually on the the new where you can copy a list of data from your email or something, and then you can paste it into a side panel in Dynamics, and it figures out which rows
what
to
fields
fill in.
to populate in the form.
Yeah, and it fills in. That is enabled in Norwegian for some reason, and I looked at because it was 21 different languages, and Norwegian was one of them, and I thought, surely someone on the team speaks Norwegian or something. Some weird coincidence that is in there. But yeah, so for some reason.
So you've been on some epic hackathons like the Arctic Cloud Developer Challenge. If you could form a dream team with three other people, and they can be fictional, non-fictional, but only three, who would you have in your hackathon team, and who would they be and why?
Wow. So is that in addition to me then? Me and three more people?
You're the first team member and then three others.
Okay, I would have the both of you there, of course, and Chuck Norris. And then, there you go. That's all I need.
That's
right.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's funny.
I wasn't actually expecting that. I thought you were going to be like you would have more of a dilemma as to whether or not Franco or Nick would be on your team. But no, you find them straight under the bus. Well done.
No. Absolutely
we'll make sure your
not.
episode goes out next week, okay?
No. Because actually, and this is what people get wrong all the time, because I just had a discussion with one of the other committee members of AC/DC, not the rock band, but the hackathon.
Yeah.
Because he's so competitive and he thinks that everyone's there to compete. 2025 will be the 15th year that we've done that hackathon in Oslo. And it's never been about winning. It is about learning. It's about spending 3 days hitting your head against the brick wall of learning and doing something that you've never done before and getting it wrong and hitting that preview feature bug that you can't get over. And by the time you're done, you've talked to 10 different people to try to help you across the finish line. And maybe you solved it, maybe you didn't, but you learned a ton along the way and you made new friends and you've expanded your knowledge base, and you have that, that fringy knowledge profile where you have bits and pieces of stuff you really don't understand how it works, but you may be able to set it up, and then that latches onto something else, and then suddenly you have this amazingly weird fringy knowledge kind of profile. That's what the hackathon is about to me.
Yeah.
It's not about winning. And so to be on a team with you two, I would learn so many things and we would have so much fun. And that's what it is about. And so, I don't know, then Nick and Franco can go on another team and they can win the thing. And I can just have fun with you guys. And then Chuck Norris, of course, it would be do everything, just do the things for us.
Chuck Norris can do the presentation at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Do something fun. We've hacked Teslas and we've created robots and we've brewed beer and we've had, all the IoT devices. I've had my watch hacked so many times that if I did this with my watch 3 times, it did something on the computer, then beeped here and sound there and a blip. That's what it's about. Doing things that you don't normally do. And so, and have fun with it. And of course, this year at AC/DC, we have, 6 judges, which are all MVPs and hotshots in our community. And then we have an MVP team in addition. So Matt Snecker and Cookie and all of these have drawn together an MVP team who's going to participate alongside everyone else. So it's kind of crammed in all the superstars in one place. So being in the Power Platform space in Norway, and you have, that weekend off, couldn't be a better place to network and get to know these superstars and get help with the things that you're stuck at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Where is it this year? Or next year, sorry.
Yeah, it's always in Oslo. We are at the Soria Moria Hotel. And that is by design, because we want to be somewhere remote where people won't go off to the bar or something at night, because we do have a bar at the hotel and there's a spa and everything, but we want to keep people there. And it creates a really intimate space. So we have 50, 60, maybe 70 people in one big room. It smells like old school developers smell like.
I've been to
it's
enough LAN parties to know that smell well.
It's LAN party, that's what it is.
Smell, yeah.
Enough.
Yeah.
It smells.
It's
a Red Bull smell,
Red Bull, sweat,
and odor
fear.
and sweat and fear. Yes, absolutely. And lots of beer, lots of drink, lots of fun. And people just work day and night, and it's that kind of, there's a special atmosphere that I don't get anywhere else but AC/DC. I can't put my finger out there. It is, I think it's one of those when you go through something together and you stayed up all night, and it creates a really special atmosphere, I find. I absolutely love it. I can't wait.
So, John, do you know what time it is?
Time for you to bring up that picture of Uncomfortable Corner, I reckon.
It's time for Uncomfortable Corner.
Woo! Do you have a picture?
Uncomfortable Corner.
Budget. Nothing spent here. Zero pence.
All done in PowerPoint, not even on a Canvas app, that was PowerPoint. So, Ulrikke, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable, whether that was in or out of work? Explain how you felt, how you managed to get through it, and what did you...
It's such a hard question. And I love that, I've listened to so many of your episodes, and it's funny how you get people to talk about the same things from different angles.
I know, 42 guests all talking about the same thing, right? Imposter syndrome.
And I love Neil kind of, I don't have it. I don't understand it. I love that. So, what imposter syndrome? What?
Yeah.
I love you, Neil.
No, I love you, Neil. Absolutely.
Love
With
you,
or
Neil.
without imposter
I mean,
syndrome.
I do believe that.
Yeah, me too. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
I can see that he doesn't. Yeah.
But it surprised me that he's that uncomfortable with uncomfortable conversations. But yeah, so I love the thing that you talked about with how we kind of fulfill each other. You have to find someone who's good at what you are bad at, so that you're a total package. I think that's a very good strategy. Yeah. So when you sent me that question ages and ages and ages ago, the thing that came to mind was doing a presentation that I wasn't really prepared for. It's not about imposter syndrome. It's more about the voice in your head that's giving you shit for things that you do or do not do. And that inner voice had a field day with me after one of the presentations that I did. I was not really well prepared. It was a session that I'd done a couple of times before. So I just, in PowerPoint, just dragged all the slides into the new template that I was given, did not take the time to go fully through it. So all my animations were lost, or half of the pictures were not there. The flow was completely ruined. And I didn't prep like I should have. And also it was late in the day. I was a bit pooped, so didn't have the best energy. And I was really just looking forward to getting out of there. It was a kind of a half-filled room, so I wasn't really feeling that it was important. And also I had people in the room that made me, that I got starstruck by. So that also added to the whole, it's kind of setting me off a bit. So I lost my footing completely, and I did not feel a vibe. I did not connect with the audience. I didn't present it well. I said things that wasn't right. I was feeling like Donald Trump said things that wasn't true.
But you didn't say injecting bleach into your skin, did you?
I drank some bleach.
Jesus.
We've gone political.
You Norwegians definitely do things different.
Because that's how you cure COVID, isn't it?
No.
So actually, I came out of that and I didn't feel good. And I also made a promise for myself that if I'm going to do this right, and I'm going to be in this for the right reasons. But it is very uncomfortable when public speaking is weird, because I've never had, kind of like Neil, imposter syndrome doesn't really kick in that sense when I'm on stage. I usually have a good time. I get nervous to 2 to 3 minutes or seconds before I hit the button and say hello to everyone. But then that vanishes and I'm just absolutely enjoying myself up there. But those times when I'm not, it's because I haven't put in the work that I need to do. So I made a promise to myself that if I'm going to continue to be a public speaker, I need to up my game and I need to make sure that I do things properly and that I'm well prepared. And it's all about that inner voice, essentially, just to not give that any reason to give me any grief. And that's kind of that's my whole life, really. Yeah, I try to mute that voice as much as possible. But yeah, so that's kind of my story.
It's interesting what you say about you're quite comfortable with getting up on stage and talking in front of people, but there's like a couple of minutes before where you're like, oh shit, and then eventually you just do it and it's fine. And then some people, and I'm one of those, that like a month before my speaking engagement, I'm shitting myself like for that whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some people are just, I don't like saying it, some people I think are just born to do public speaking, and other people, they need to really build their confidence up and really build up to it. So I think it's a thing that sort of takes all sorts, doesn't it? And everyone approaches it differently.
I think I struggle with the prep.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I know that it's kind of good to go, then I'm okay. That's the bit, and I, you know, like you said, Ulrikke, like if the prep has not been done, I know I'm going to go to that, and I'm like, well, it's going to be difficult. Yeah. So yeah, as long as the prep work's done, and as long as I understand what I'm saying, then I'm okay. I'll be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also like that nervousness. And I've also heard other speakers say that the day that you lose that, then you lose your edge, and it's kind of part of what makes you a better speaker in a sense. When you have that little nervousness, it kind of makes you up your game in a sense. So,
we talked about, I don't know if you've heard of, I don't know if you know who Natty Turtledove is.
Yeah. I get. Yeah.
So he on his podcast episode with us, we talked about the difference between adrenaline and anxiety, and how they're very similar, how they are very similar feelings internally. But if you can differentiate between the two, the chances are most of the time, especially when you're about to go on stage, that's actually adrenaline, not anxiety, and you can capitalize on that.
Yeah. That sounds right. That sounds exactly right. Anxiety is worrying about things that haven't really come to pass yet, isn't it? It's that inner voice taking over and making you anxious about something that hasn't really happened yet.
Yeah.
It's hard. I do get that as well sometimes, but not with public speaking usually.
Nice. Well, Ulrikke, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. Links to
we really appreciate it.
Yes, we.
Oh, no. It's just
sorry I was late at the beginning. Apologies again. Thank you very much. Links to your LinkedIn and websites, including the Power Platform Boost podcast, where other podcasts are available, apart from, just come back to this one.
I know.
Will be in the show notes. Any other links to resources mentioned in this episode will be there too. Music today was provided by our good friend Ken Like Fit, and you can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find the episode show notes. Additional music used in this episode is credited there too. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode, and we would really appreciate it if you gave us a follow on LinkedIn. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you very much. This has been Sprint Zero. We've been Mike Gowland. Say goodbye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
And Ulrikke Akerbæk. Say goodbye, Ulrikke.
Goodbye, Ulrikke.
And I'm John, and I will see you on the next episode of Sprint Zero.
Love you, John.
Thank you so much.
Love you, Mike.
Love you, Ulrikke.
Love you, Ulrikke.
Love you, Mike. Love you, John. Love you, Mike. Love you, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast to come on your podcast.
Nice.
No problem.
Bye-bye.